Welcome to the Nebraska Land Bank Podcast.
I'm Ty.
I'm David.
I'm Danielle, and we're your hosts. In each episode, we'll sit down with local guests to highlight the incredible people and stories that make our community unique.
From finance to sports, community events to local businesses, we've got it all covered. Join us as we dive into the heart of our community.
This is the Nebraska Land Bank Podcast, always community-minded.
Every voice.
Every topic.
Every time.
So turn the volume up, settle in,
and let's talk Nebraska Land.
Friends, welcome back to the Nebraska Land Bank Podcast. For Ty Lucas, I'm David Fudge. Danielle, in the old business I was in, we called it on assignment. Danielle's on assignment today, kind of an old media term. Does anybody use that anymore, or is that just stuck in the back of my head?
Wasn't that called vacation or PTO
I don't
today?
know what it is
No?
today. I don't know. Maybe we'll just
either.
go say she's on assignment. She's not with us today, but we've got a fun episode planned for today. Lots of things happening in North Platte with Connection Homeless Shelter, and we're going to learn more about that as we kind of go along through today. But we always start off with an icebreaker question, and since Danielle is on assignment today, I'm doing the air quote thing, on assignment here. You can't see that, but it is what it is. So we had two options for the icebreaker question. I kind of like option two. So, Ty, tell us about the first place you lived on your own.
Oh, boy. Okay. So after I graduated from high school, I moved to Gainesville, Florida.
Oh, boy.
And I decided to venture into the world of carpet cleaning and water restoration and all sorts of fun jobs before I ended up eventually going to college down there. And I lived in a place called, I think it was Cedar Creek Apartments. It was this little apartment complex. They all had that kind of old yellow cinder block color.
Yeah.
And it was $285 to rent a one-bedroom apartment at that point in time.
It's been a hot minute
Yeah.
ago. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. You're going back to when like Pearl Jam was just coming out here, David. But anyway, so and it wasn't nice. It had a little bit of a occasional bug and cockroach problem being in north central Florida. So it was.
Got it.
Let's just say I'm very appreciative for the places I've lived since then.
Yes.
But it worked, and I could afford the rent, and it helped me get from point A to point B in life. So
there you go.
Yep. I was by the place about 3 years ago and still looked just as junky as it did when I lived there. Yeah. How about you?
Well, my first place was actually here in North Platte. Out of high school, went straight into the media and was working in television at the time, if I remember correctly. I had actually been in this house at a function, let's call it, at the time. And so it's on Sycamore Street. It's not far from our shop where Lisa works every day now, just up the alley. And so that was our first home. It was pretty basic. I think it had one single room air conditioner in it, but it kept the rain off our head and kept us dry and warm. And so fond memories of that first home. So now we'll introduce our guest. Ashley Lewis is the executive director of the Connection homeless shelter here in North Platte. And so, Ashley, why don't you tell us about the first place you lived on your own?
I don't know if this counts, but I guess the first place I lived without my mom would be a college dorm room at CSU. I was 17 and had a private suite and was pretty lucky. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Private suite at college? That doesn't happen.
Is this Chadron State?
Colorado State.
Colorado State.
Yeah.
No kidding. Wow.
All right.
Good school.
How'd you score a private suite?
Just what they had back then. They have really nice dorms. I can't even imagine what they'd be like now.
Yeah.
I remember the dorms I moved my daughter to in college, and they weren't that nice. There's three of them they crammed in a small room like that. So
Horrible. I could not.
Well, it's good to have you on. You and I were talking just a little bit beforehand. I mean, you got a lot going on in your world right now. Everybody, I'm old enough to remember when the Connection was downtown and what used to be a pizza place. Mm-hmm. That building isn't in existence anymore, but now you've got the place down on 5th Street, and it was built, 20 years ago? Has it been 20 years now?
2010, so getting there.
Getting on 20 years ago. Wow. So so tell us all things going on there. Let's start there. What's new? What's different there? And then we'll move on into what you're doing, which is pretty remarkable.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. So the shelter is busy. It's been a lot different the last couple of years than how it was when I originally started. We've seen we get really full and then we just entirely empty out almost. Mm-hmm. Just differences in things people are experiencing right now. We do case management, so we work with every client who comes in and make sure that they have their basic needs met. So if they need help getting Medicaid or SNAP, we get those applications done. We work on job searches, mental health, behavioral health, anything like that they need some help with. We'll get them referrals and get them going. We do hold them to some certain requirements when they stay at the shelter. So they're required to do a chore twice a day. If they're not working, they're required to do some volunteer work. And then we just work with them, continue and try to improve life skills. We try to build their financial knowledge. We try to build, what it means to be a good tenant. And so that we can get them into permanent housing and then they can maintain that permanent housing outside of it. We've been really lucky this year. So one of the projects we'll talk about here in a bit, we were able to receive some of the developer fee through that. So it gave us an opportunity to, we're getting the shelter re-sided. So if you drive by the shelter, it needs new siding pretty badly. So we're very excited for that. We got a new stove. I've worked there almost. I'm about to start my 10th year this fall. And we've always had one oven on our stove that didn't work.
Oh my.
So Thanksgivings and stuff were very rough. So we were able to buy a new stove. It's fantastic. We got new bunk beds for our men's dorm. So making some good improvements. We're seeing lots of positive success stories. We generally sit about 55 to 75% of our people who leave into permanent housing maintain.
Wow.
Yeah. And we have 0.05 recidivism rate. So 1 to 2 people are returning to homelessness that we get into permanent housing a year. That's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
So it keeps us busy and definitely enjoying what we're doing there. We're serving a lot of good people and having some success with getting them in housing and improving their lives. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now it's been a little while since I've been in the connection. I think when construction was finished and the open houses and that, I've maybe been in there once in the time frame, but it's been a while. I just want to understand, what is like the length of average stay, and approximately how many residents would you guys have in the main shelter on an average day?
Our average stay has gone up as we've seen our nation housing crisis increase. It's very hard to get anybody into housing, that's affordable, let alone individuals who have poor rental history, poor job history,
Sure.
criminal history, those kind of things. So
Right.
It used to be our average stay was about 67 days. That's people who come and stay one night to people who stay, they can stay up to 24 months in any 36-month period. So the average of that was 67 days. We are looking, last time I pulled my statistics, I think we're at like 97 days for our average stay. So up quite a bit from the way it used to be. So that does take its toll on how many we're able to serve. We have 65 beds in the facility that are actual beds. 25 of those sit in our 5 family apartments, and it's 1 family per apartment. So if we have a mom and a kiddo or a dad and a kiddo, we're down 3 beds that we don't have access to that aren't being used. And then 6 of those beds are in, we call them pods. They're exterior rooms. We use them for extreme weather situations for individuals who maybe don't want to normally stay at the shelter or can't because of behaviors. And then we also use them if we have people who are highly inebriated come in. We will put them in there so that they're not disrupting the shelter.
Gotcha.
Yep, and then the rest are common beds, and but then we have overflow space. So with 65 beds, the most people I've ever had in the shelter was 103.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep, December 2019. So that was an interesting time for all of us, and we were so full.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Talk about, how do you make all that work? I mean, you're talking about a lot of social service there. I mean, how do you fund something like that when you're trying to run it's not a small facility for the city of North Platte.
No, absolutely. It's a good size, and we've got some other stuff. It's a lot of collaboration. We're very lucky to have really good relationships with other service providers. So you have programs that help with like mental health medications, one less cost for us when it comes to getting our residents on track. Prescription meds, most of the services that we don't have funding for, our community does provide in one way or another. So that's awesome. We get 2 annual grants. One is an NHAP. It's through our state DHHS, and then the other is United Way. Between the two, they cover about a quarter of our budget. So then we have the thrift stores where sales revenue helps to operate the shelter. And then again, we're really lucky to live in a very giving community where we have individuals who are very supportive of the shelter and what we're trying to do. That helps us maintain our budget and keep the lights on.
That's great.
Yeah. It's something that obviously you wish wasn't such a heavy community need, but the way I've seen our community step up and and helped this over the years. It's an extraordinary success story in North Platte. You even hear about it across the state. I mean, I think North Platte you guys have always been kind of cutting edge on this, it seems like. So
yeah, we do hear a lot that our shelter is a lot different than others, and the way we run it and expectations and that kind of thing. And we definitely, our goal is to help. So we try to do our best to be able to make that work while protecting everybody in a building and not imposing negatives on our community.
Yeah. I remember when they were talking about building that building, there was a lot of pushback in the community about that it'd be a permanent residence, but that's never been the goal there. And you kind of illustrated that a little bit, but what are some of the steps that you have to take with folks who wind up there for whatever reason or the other to get them into more permanent housing?
I think that's kind of one of the hardest things is we are not a specific demographic. Everybody's different, but when you are serving individuals who all fall within a similar category, whether that's like behavioral health or domestic violence, you have more ability to rely on the same similarities. With ours, everybody who walks through our door is different. We serve DV victims, we serve mental health, behavioral health, all sorts of individuals come to us for help. And so it really is an individualized plan for everybody. We run in a phased program. It just makes it easier for us with consistency. So the first 3 days, somebody comes in, we give them time to just relax. They need to acclimate. They need to get used to the shelter. Anybody who comes in is automatically in survival mode, and we all know what that's like. Our brain is focused on what am I going to do to get through today, rather than how can I make these changes to get to tomorrow. So they go through that first 3 days. The first week, we get them benefits. We get them referrals to wherever they need to go, whether that's employment, mental health, physical health. We make sure that those needs are taken. After that, they start on our program. So they start with volunteer hours. They start with job searches if their goal is job searching. And then we work a plan with them. They meet with our case manager weekly to follow that plan. But it is very individualized for each person. There are some we've gotten into housing, in a matter of a week or two. There's others who we've had to ask for waivers for because they've been with us for so long.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I know some of the other things you've got going on are meant to address that second step. And one of the cool projects, and people have seen it as that Francis Street corridor has kind of developed, has been Thriving Connections, I believe is the name of it. Now it's out on Francis, and there's a number of different units that are being built in there, and I believe I can't remember the exact number. It might be 5 or 6 units on one side, but then there's this big apartment complex too. So tell us about that and how that kind of came to be and what its goal is.
Absolutely. So Thriving Connections Apartments is a large housing development for individuals of low and moderate income. It's a tax credit project. So we went through the Nebraska Investment Finance Authority and applied for a program that's called the LIHTC Crane. So it stands for Low Income Housing Tax Credit, and it's a crane project. With those, syndicators purchase the tax credits, and then they give us the money to build whatever we're approved for. So our development is going to have 6 duplexes. So those are 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and for families. And then the multifamily will have 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and 1-bedroom, 1-bath. 44 units in all.
Wow.
Yeah, so it'll be a good addition to our community. It's not income-based, so it's not like Housing Authority or Section 8 where they look at what you're making and calculate your rent based on that amount. With ours, it's technically income restricted. So it's all by square footage, and so many square feet of the development is dedicated to individuals who are extremely impoverished. So we're looking at 30% of the area median income or below. And then we do 40, 50, 60. And we'll have some fair market rate units. So there will be 9 FMR units. And the rent on those is set by HUD. So every year HUD comes out with their fair market rates. If they say a 1-bedroom is $500, that's what a 1-bedroom will be. And those are not income restricted. But with the other ones, if your income falls within that 30% AMI, everybody within that will pay one rate. So if it's, the rate for a 30% is $450 for a 1-bedroom, even if somebody makes $100 and somebody makes $200, they're both paying $450.
Gotcha.
And I've just got to pause this for a minute. I know we're not here to talk about banking and finance. We're here to talk about their project. But an applause to the group that was involved in this. Getting through the navigation of the low-income tax credit project is extremely difficult. There's only a handful of syndicators that work in the state of Nebraska, and it is a very complicated process. And so If you think back in the history of North Platte, there was a project that was out on West 2nd Street that was probably, 15 years ago. I'm kind of ballparking, plus or minus a few years. And then if you go even further back, there was a project not too far from where they were on, kind of in the area of like Taborwood, Sandridge, in that area. There was a project that goes back about 25 years ago. And then you can go back, and it's about every 10 or 15 years in North Platte's history, we've had a project that's qualified under that program. And so this isn't a program that they just kind of willy-nilly throw out tax credits for. I mean, our community's historically seen one of these about every 10 or 15 years. So it's a big deal to get through that process, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we started in 2020 or 2021.
Oh, wow.
And we're just funded last year. And a process for closing those syndications normally takes about 18 months. We did ours in about 12 weeks.
Wow.
Because we had some other variances with funding that we received for the development, and we had to spend $5 million by September 30th of last year. So a process that normally takes quite a bit of time. You get time to get your stuff together. We were throwing together in a very, very short period of time.
So we're basically to the middle of August now. Give us an update on where the construction stands and when you think you might be seeing people actually get to take advantage of these places.
Absolutely. We're really excited. We've started doing tours for the duplexes. They're about ready to be rented. So
wow.
They're starting to take applications, and we will hopefully have people in there in the next few weeks. We've had some delays, but it's moving. That's just construction.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And then the multifamily, we are hoping to be able to start occupancy at the beginning of November.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So it's coming along pretty well.
It
Well,
is.
it looks nice. I mean, I drive by that periodically because I always like to keep tabs on construction projects and the like. They look great. You wouldn't be able to tell they were anything but new construction. They were like, you wouldn't tell that they were low-income housing or any of that sort of thing. They really do look like they're done very, very well. And they look fantastic.
And I want to jump in on that real quick. There at times in the history of the world has been a little stigma on low-income housing. And I think that vision comes with some of the, more your housing authority type projects and houses, those types of things. And again, that's an important mission in our community too, which is also serving a very important purpose. But there is projects everywhere you go that have the use of these federal and state programs in them, and they're just part of our overall market. I mean, if somebody comes to our bank today and gets a conventional home mortgage, well, Fannie Mae might have played a role, which is a government-sponsored program, in helping that. It's really not different. It's just a different use of programs and the different things. And so for this project's going to be a poster child why there really shouldn't be a stigma with that label. Absolutely.
Yeah. So do you see the Thriving Connections complex kind of as an intermediate step then between the shelter and then maybe longer term permanent housing? Do you see it as that, or do you see it as something different?
No, it's definitely permanent housing. People who move in can stay as long as they'd like. Our goal is we want to serve our community better. We have a lot of moderate and low income people here who are having a hard time affording housing. Mm-hmm. And also to give those that we serve a better opportunity to obtain quality, affordable housing. For those in the extremely low income, our goal is to improve their life skills, improve their tenancy, maybe give them a better rental history, and then maybe get them into something like the housing authority. Because when you look at being extremely low income, subsidized housing is always your most stable option. Mm-hmm. You are always going to pay 30% of your income. You will not experience a housing cost burden. So for those that's just where they're at, if we can get them so that they qualify on the tenant side, mm-hmm. The housing authority is the best option. And then we can get another extremely low income person in there and work with them on that.
So it could be a combination of both. It could be some longer term stuff, and it could just be an intermediate step between temporary at the shelter and a more permanent, maybe in the housing authority world or something of that nature.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Well, as if you didn't have enough to manage there, there's a third project now underway, and it's called Honor Homes for Veterans at Patty's Place, if I remember my title correctly. Why don't you just walk us through what this is?
Absolutely. So Honor Homes is going to be a tiny home village for veterans who are experiencing homelessness. It's a huge partner project. We have collaborated with so many groups and so many people and have had so much support. It's probably my favorite project just because you really do get to see the people come together. We used to have a housing development on that. It was an older building that we had purchased from George and Patty Evans. Had some plumbing problems and its age. It just was not worth it to repair.
Yep.
Had talked about some different options for the piece of property, ways to make money for the shelter, storage units, things like that. But I have a passion for housing. It's been in me for a long time. So doing another project with that sounded great to me. It was actually supposed to be our third phase. We own the property north of Thriving Connections, and we'll be doing housing on that as well at some point. So, but this came about a lot quicker because Mid-Plains Community College's Ready to Work program out of Ogallala had built a structure. It's just a shell on the inside, but they had tried to auction it off, and it hadn't auctioned. And Judy Peterson and her family bought it specifically for this project. We had talked about doing tiny homes, veterans, because we don't have a lot of veterans housing in Nebraska, let alone in our area. We have supportive services for veterans and families, incredible program. Our VSO is amazing. There's not a lot out here. We're very rural. And so bringing something that was strictly for veterans to our area was a high priority. Veterans living in a communal space where they have shared experiences makes a huge impact on their mental health and how they proceed through life. So we liked that idea of making it strictly for veterans. So Judy Peterson and her family bought that home. We were like, we'll make it our community building. There'll be laundry, games, tables, places they can hang out. And that started our partnership with Mid-Plains. So they built our first 2 units fully. They are sitting on St. Patrick's Catholic Church's parking lot. For now, we are working on pouring footings and then foundations so we can get that off their parking lot. And then the Ready to Work program will make the last 5 units as just panels. So we'll do on-site construction for those. Mm-hmm. But our big goal is to avoid federal and state funding. When you look at federal and state funding, there's lots of restrictions about what kind of documentation they need, what they have to have experienced, whether that's like chronic homelessness, disability, that kind of thing. So we're trying to eliminate those needs. We want you to show us proof of your income so we know what to charge you for rent, and we want proof of your veteran status. We have a lot of veterans who remain unsheltered homeless because they don't want to meet those other demands. I have one in my shelter right now that's been homeless as long as I've been alive.
Wow.
And just very anti-service, anti-system of any kind. So they just remain homeless because they don't want to participate in those things. So by removing those requirements, we're making it easier for some of these veterans who served us to be somewhere safe, to be somewhere they can call home and be in an environment where they can support each other, because they do experience a lot of things differently than civilians do with what they've encountered.
So how many units altogether by the time this is all done?
It'll be 7 living units and then the community building.
Gotcha. And size, what kind of amenities? I mean, you said tiny homes, and so there's varying degrees of these things, and so what do these look like on the
inside? So they are 16 by 20 each unit, so not a bad size.
Yeah,
we've definitely seen smaller ones. They have a little sitting area and a kitchen, and then they'll have a private bathroom and a bedroom. When I went to Ogallala to look at the first living unit that they had created, we hadn't put a closet in the plans. And I was walking through talking to the kiddos who had made it, and I turned a corner and there was a closet, and I was like, "Oh, you guys put a closet in?" And the instructor was like, "Yeah, everybody has stuff to store."
Right.
And just very moving, in that moment of, yeah, you're right. Thank you for doing that. And then, if it's successful, I could see us maybe trying to do a little more with that too, just because there is such a need in western Nebraska.
Yeah. People don't realize that, but there is.
If I have my city council hat on, I get contacted, I'd say at least once every month or 2. And the question is, well, Ty, if the city is working with these developments, whether that be mobile homes like the recent Chief Park up on East Phillip, or apartments or whatever, why are we not engaging in tiny home development? And my answer is always I think we'd love to, but we haven't had very many people come to us and ask the city to, collaborate on that. And so one thing that I'm very excited about with this project is in addition to the great service it's going to provide to the people that are in these homes and your organization actually as a whole, it's also going to show our community how a tiny home development can work.
Right.
And especially one that has a little bit of common space and some others, because it's been a very effective development strategy in other parts of the nation as housing costs have gotten so expensive. And again, it's easy to jump over having space to bring people together in a community, and that's a very important aspect of a development like that. So I'm excited about it from that as kind of the gravy on top of the project that you're already doing to serve the people that will be there.
Yeah. Very cool. I worked for a nonprofit for a good hunk of my lifetime. I know it takes a good team around you. You want to give you a shot here to shout those people out, because to Ty's point, the tax credit project I'm sure got done with a lot of help from people in the community, and I'm sure some are on your board. So why don't you talk about your team that helps this thing roll?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely first, my shelter team. I have an incredible group of people. It is not easy to work there. It is. Some days are obviously much better than others, but when there's a rough day, they all rally and, get things done. And if I say I'm going to be gone for a few days, I never worry about what's going to happen in my shelter. I'm very, very grateful for my shelter team. My board of directors, ever since I've started, has been absolutely amazing. I've had some major turnover the last few years and lost a few that had been with me the whole time, but they always bring other great people on, people who are willing to step up, people who are engaged in our mission. And I know I've talked to other people, boards can be hard, and so grateful for that. It has definitely made a huge difference in where I've come since I started. And then with the LIHTC project, as hard as those are, we had an incredible developer, RMDX out of Omaha. Ryan Durant and Matt Doherty are partners, and Ryan has done projects like this. He's worked in all fields of housing, for-profit, nonprofit, what he's doing now. So without them, I don't know that we would have ever made it through that process, because it was very intense.
Yeah, that's great. How do people support the connection? If they hear this and they're moved to want to help in some way, how can they do that?
Absolutely. So we're always looking for volunteers to help with the tiny homes. We have an incredible group of retired veterans who are helping us with the majority of the construction. But any more people to help with that would always be wonderful. You can contact me directly, and I can give directions on how to get it in with them. We always take monetary donations, in-kind donations of food, cleaning products, hygiene, anything you would use in your house. We use it 60 times more in ours. And then our thrift store is always taking volunteers. We're always taking donations. It helps to operate the shelter. So if you're going through your house, bring us your good stuff.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm pretty impressed with this organization. The things they've accomplished is tremendous.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
It's great to watch it. We were pretty involved in it back in an earlier part of my career.
Yeah, you were. We didn't talk about that.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it. I was hoping to kind of skirt over some of that stuff, but we were kind of involved with it as they were building the shelter and helped raise a lot of money for it. So to see where it started in the old, that was a Godfather's Pizza building, if I remember correctly, and not a very good one because it's now gone.
And you never went like swimming in the cold river in the winter over.
We weren't going to talk about that.
No. Okay.
Yeah. We
many years ago.
Many years ago. Yeah, we did a lot of things for King and Country back then, but that was a fun one. We had a lot of fun doing it and raised a lot of money for it. But to see where it is now is very gratifying. So congratulations on where you guys are, and great work is all I can say.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to our final segment called Asking for a Friend. And these two are kind of related, Ty. So we're going to ask these. How do you know when you're financially ready to stop renting and buy a home? And probably the sub-question to that is it better to focus on paying off debt or saving for future housing goals?
Coincidentally, one of the missions we've got here at the bank has a lot of consistency with the mission of the connection, and that is to help people with housing, home ownership, affordable renting. I mean, all of those things. Again, we've got different focuses in the way we go about it, but we still have that ultimate goal, and It's very, very important to us here. So to your questions, first of all, when should you stop renting and you should buy? Okay. First of all, think about how important mobility is to you. Okay. If I'm renting and I don't know that I'm going to be in my same location, job, marital status or living status, whatever, in 6 months or a year, one of the benefits of renting is mobility. So sometimes people are so programmed to buy, they regret buying because they buy something and they have to turn around and sell it in a year or two, okay? So that's, first of all, the old rule of thumb is if you think you're going to be somewhere 24 to 36 months or greater, then buying is a good idea to consider. And I agree with that. I think that's good. Also, how handy you are enters into that. If you're somebody that can fix things, improve things, create sweat equity, That kind of moves the meter on that decision. In terms of the question of paying off debt versus saving, there's a lot of different approaches on this. If Dave Ramsey was sitting here, he would tell you eliminate all other debt, save your down payment, and then buy a house. There's also the camp of if you can get down to maybe just car loan or maybe some student debt that's a reasonable level. I probably fall a little bit more into that camp, that as long as you have a good sound financial picture, it's a good thing. The biggest thing is that you don't want to go into buying a house, not have any resources to handle repair, and then all of a sudden have a water heater go out or something, and then all of a sudden you have a debt or sell situation because you're not very well prepared for it.
Right.
It was interesting. She commented earlier that, like the housing authority, they utilize 30% of income as a good basis for housing. Well, we tend to suggest 25 to 30%. So it's really the same in our world. But how much other debt somebody has, like say they have a car obligation or some student loan debt, then that kind of just goes into the numbers of maybe pushing down the amount of their income that's available for housing.
Yeah.
So the long answer to a short question is come work with a great mortgage lender that has the heart of a teacher and a passion for going through your personal situation, and just try to make good, sound decisions. And we're happy to help people with those.
Yeah. My youngest daughter just bought her first home, and she asked me a bunch of questions about it, and we went through her finances, and I looked at her when she finally settled on the one she thought she wanted, and I said, can you see yourself here in 4 years? Because if not, you just keep renting.
Yeah.
And so I think you're spot on. If you're committed to being in a location for a period of time that's equivalent or more than 3 to 4 years, that's probably a good idea to buy. So, and of course, if you have sufficient resources to get that done as well.
Yeah. Historically in America, and especially in Nebraska, owning a house has been a good financial proposition. Yeah. And I guess before we close, Ashley, anything you want to add on this topic? I know you're working with people who I'm sure ultimately head towards home ownership. Anything you want to add on the topic?
No, I think that was a really great answer. I'd like to add to that, we have had people who have left the shelter, rented for a couple years, gotten really on their feet, and now they own houses.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my favorite success stories is you not only put roots here, but you really bought into this life that you've created, and you can't beat that. So
yeah, well, and what a better illustration of the purpose of the homeless shelter than that.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. We're here to help you back on your feet and get you to a place where you're financially stable again. So again, Ashley Lewis, thank you for joining us today, and best of luck on these projects as they roll towards the finish line.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You bet. That's a wrap for today. Learn more about our podcast at nebraskalandbank.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed the episode, subscribe to the show and find us on Facebook. Thanks for listening to the Nebraska Land Bank podcast. Community minded, every voice, every topic, every time.